Hello everyone in internet land. Sylph, Dominic, Hawkins here, coming to you live Wednesday night, the 9th of September 2020. I have lost track of what session number this is for this particular thing. I have a feeling that it's session 21 maybe, but I will double check. In retrospect, I'll make sure that the title of this video on YouTube and Facebook page is correct. I'll check later. I hope that you've had a good week. And if you're joining us now, so these are the Zoom sessions rather than the just Facebook Live. So if you're joining us as a member of the Zoom sessions, obviously these, I'm recording these, bring them up, they'll go up on the Facebook page and the YouTube page for the dojo as content for other students. So, you know, at the end of the recorded session, I'll let you all know. We'll finish the recorded section and then we can stay on for our little social chat afterwards. And a reminder to those, if you're watching this in the past, but it's not so much in the past, that we are still doing the Zoom sessions, join us on the Wednesday and Friday nights. It's lots of fun. You can, we take part directly in the same thing, meditations and the philosophy discussions. But then at the end of the session, we have an opportunity to dialogue and engage. We can just have a social catch up. Sometimes people ask me questions, clarify things from the discussion. Other times it's just, how was your week? And trying to keep us all just a little bit, keep us all in touch because, they're strange times. Without further ado, those who just joined. So we're just getting comfortable wherever it is that you're seated, standing, lying down, etc. I'm just going to relax and taking a deep breath in through the nose, down into the belly, and out through the mouth. Just a reminder that I'm muting keep the members who just joined Zoom, keep it muted for now because I'm recording this section, and then we get to have our little social catch up at the end. All right, so we just breathe in and out, in through the nose, down into the belly. I'll walk us through our introduction. Breathing and out through the mouth, tongue sits on the roof of the mouth, just on the palate behind the top two front teeth. And we'll talk about that tonight. Answer questions some of you have been asking for quite a while in these sessions. But as we're just breathing initially, I want you to just feel the stretch through the ribs, through the torso section, the rib cage, through the kidneys, so that the breath stretches the body, really pulls out, pulls in the sinews, and you feel this kind of opening feeling in the lower part of the ribs, and then outward through the mouth. Just another 2 big deep breaths in through the nose, and out through the mouth, and in through the nose, and out through the mouth. As we just begin by listening to the sounds that we can hear. What can you hear far away as you breathe with your focused attention outside the room, outside the building? As you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, out through your mouth. As you just listen, what can you hear? Does it divide into a symphony of different details and sounds? Now I want you to listen close to the body. So these are the 3 little stages that I take us through. I've been doing so over the last 10 or 11 sessions over the 5 sense organs. What can we hear nice and close within a little radius around you? As you breathe in and out, does your breath become quite highlighted? And finally, can you hear the sound of your own eardrum? As you breathe. And then just relaxing the focus on hearing. So now we're going to move to the sense of smell, the olfactory sense. So we're going to begin by just smelling the scents and aromas that are in the room around you. 3 breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Off we go. Big deep breaths in and out. What can you smell? As we now move in closer to the body, what can you smell within a very small radius of you? 3 breaths. I can smell the wool of my jumper. What can you smell? And now take our focus to the actual smell receptors in the inside of the nose, back of the throat. Can you smell the actual receptors of smell? And relaxing the focus on the olfactory sense. Now moving to the sense of taste. I'm going to begin by just breathing in and out. You might want to breathe in and out of the nose for this one, or breathe out through the mouth but slowly, so you can savor taste. Let's just find out, what can you taste in the air, in the space where you're at, in the room, the aromas, the fragrances that you can taste in the air. 3 breaths. If you want, you can breathe in through the mouth for this one. See if it makes a difference. Okay, and now we're going to focus closer in. What are the taste sensations available to us inside the mouth? The teeth, the cheeks, maybe the dinner you just ate, the chocolate that you just finished off, the coffee from this morning. 3 breaths. What can you taste inside the mouth cavity? And now, finally with taste, focusing on the taste of the tongue. What does the tongue taste like? What is the taste of the taste buds themselves? And just relaxing the focus on the taste sensation. Now we're going to move into eyesight. So with your eyes open or closed, doesn't matter. You're just going to begin with a far away, vague gaze through an object. So I'm looking at the window or the wall in front of me. I'm just staring out beyond the glass, beyond the window, beyond the outside. My interest is my peripheral vision coming into play. And then I kind of dwell in my attention between the two. So the question being, what can you see? And take 3 breaths. And just relaxing the eyes. Now we'll move closer. We'll do this with the eyes closed. You can do it open if you like. I'll close mine. I'm now interested on the inside of the eyelids. My eyes closed. The projection of shapes, colors, geometry, and visionary on the inside of the eyelids, as if I'm looking right here, super close. 3 breaths. What can you see? And finally, eyes open or closed. We take our attention to the tissue of the eye. So the question being, can you see the eye? Can you see the point of vision, the cones, the receptors? Can you see the point of interaction of the sensation? Not the objects. It's just super hard. I love this one. 3 breaths. Off we go. Can you see the tissue of the eye? And just relaxing the focus on vision. Now let's move to tactile sense, experience of the body and the feedback of the feeling sense. Now, I know that usually I'd say, okay, now we need to concentrate on the area of the body that's in direct contact with the ground, so you can experience a sense of pressure. We're going to do something different. We're going to go straight to the hand, on the left hand. I'm going to rehash over this section a little bit more work on the flame hand, which is that great activity that I did at the start and that we've done at the start of this year with the students in class. So I'm going to start with an observation at the center of the palm. You can look if that's helpful. It doesn't have to be like that. And the goal will just be observing any sensation, nervous system sensation, at the center of the palm. Now I want you to take your right hand and put your finger in the center of that palm. And I want you to still observe the sensation of the center of the palm, not from the perspective of the finger, but from the perspective of the palm. Off we go, a couple of breaths. How did you go? Were you able to focus from the perspective of the hand? Do you find that you were getting waylaid from the experience of the finger? Finger point being much more practiced at tactile feedback than the center of the palm for us. So now what we're going to do is I want you to get your own left hand fingers and curl over till you can just gently touch the palm of the left hand. And again, experience, observe sensation on the left palm from the perspective of the palm, not the perspective of the fingers. Off we go. And just relaxing the focus on the tactile sense. So we've just finished our walk through the 5 sense organs. And this is what we usually do at the start of these sessions. I say time and time again, it's a really great, simple, no frills, black and gold version of how to get into the habit and start the momentum for the study. Super easy. If you're alive, some portion of your 5 senses will be available to you. Who knows what that one might be, but there will be something to start to use to orient yourself in that way. One of the really fun things that we can do, there's a couple of really fun things we can do with these activities, are to isolate sensation, isolate and locate. It's a hell of a skill, so that you can specifically define the sensation on a small part of the body, distinct from the rest, so that the palm can have a distinct feedback of sensation of the pressure from the palm's perspective of the fingers, even though they're the fingers of the same hand. And that will wildly be different than if you, in your mind, switch to an observation of the finger's relationship to the palm. Suddenly the finger is feeling the palm, and then you switch back, and now it's the experience of the palm being pressed upon by this outside force. Almost like, not quite numb, but it takes on the fingers themselves become less objectified. That's not true. Less subjectified rather, and take on less quality and become kind of dense than when you consider them directly. You can play this out. You can sit down and listen only to the right-hand side of you, or listen only to sounds located to the back 45 right-hand diagonal from you, even though you're surrounded by sound. Okay. You can reach your attention into that particular direction. And your sight, obviously, practice, honing in and specifically observing not just like relationships to objects out there, but your peripheral perception and experience, so that you can be talking to someone, staring at them, and have full clarity and quite cognitive clarity of what's going on, almost 180 degrees side to side, 90 degrees either side. So these fun activities, they are really enjoyable to work our way through and to succeed at. They're forms of siddhi, they're mystical experiences that are lots of fun and completely pointless in the actual scheme of the thing. But don't write them off as not something fun, It's really cool fun to be able to do those, have those experiences and play out those activities. That's just not the purpose. Just don't lose track of the goal. But definitely don't write them off as somehow bad or terrible. Just remember that they aren't where you're heading, if that makes sense. So tonight I'll talk briefly about the tongue on the roof of the mouth as we get into breathwork, and then I want to do some of the flame hand activity tonight, move away from the microcosmic orbit for tonight's session. So the tongue on the roof of the mouth, you can find this well discussed in a whole bunch of material of mainly esoterica from Kung Fu and Qigong schools, some Tai Chi areas, and some Buddhist meditation, but in less public presentation. And it comes from a concept, not quite the idea of the Chinese meridian theory. So it's not necessarily rooted in traditional Chinese medicine, although you find it in TCM, but that's not the source for my presentation of it. But you do find it. You could imagine it's similar to the idea of meridian structure, where you've got the governing conception lines that travel through the center front of the torso and up the spine and back of the back of the torso, and then they converge and travel, and there is a connecting point on the palate behind the top two front teeth, where the line itself emerges, where the suba emerges, and then, that's probably the wrong terminology, oh well, and then the tongue connects as a secondary point to continue the line through the front of the torso. But in general, esoteric studies and traditions that consider an experience of energy, movement in the body, whether that's caused through cognitive attention, so where you take your mind, experiences of energy are I don't know what the word is, drummed up, gathered, mustered in the body, or if they are natural and organic in their arising and passing. And that often those systems tend to consider the movement of the energy of the body along with the breath, so that it's not cognitive, but it rises and falls and cycles in that orbit along with the breath. The idea that there's this great wave of movement up the back or up the torso, and then cooling down the front. And I use those terms because of my interest in Chinese medicine, but they're not actually cooling and warming and cold and hot. Those aren't really terms that are associated in old literature, yeah, but I find them useful. There is a lot of written study to comment on the cycle of breath and the cycle of movement wants some connection on the inside of the mouth cavity, whether it's like the tip of the tongue or the flat of the tongue. Probably pretty hard to get the back of the tongue up to the roof of the mouth without choking. That there's some kind of connection, the roof. I assume that that's because of its specific positioning in terms of this symmetrical relationship with the body, and then all of a sudden an asymmetry in the mouth where there's one cavity. It'd be different maybe if there were two cavities and there was a skin or a flesh continuation through the center, but this kind of gaping cavity parts the rivers, so to speak, so that a gushing movement of water, would travel through the symmetrical relationships and then have to part around the cavity and then recombine and then continue down through the body. And then it has that same relationship, unimpeded for the entire rest of the run. So there is something special about the mouth cavity in its position, in its location in that relationship. And so what we have from a lot of texts of the past, what Glenn writes about in his work that he had gathered from texts of the past as well, notably more like a lot of Qigong work and references, study. And there's a lot of Taoist alchemy study over the millennia, which goes into far more detail about this than I ever could. And I can give you some reading references at another time if you'd like. A lot of the discussions around it are just given as warnings rather than like straight up descriptions. The warnings are always just the maintaining sanity, maintaining control of the mind, or supporting just, they call it like an average temperature, but like of the body. So talking about cycling of energy and movement of body energy experience. So that there's these ideas and these warnings that are put forward to say, if there isn't a relationship or a connection in that downward descension of energy and ascension, that then there could be a build-up of that experience in the head or the brain or the neck or up through the back of the spine, or if not a build-up, a kind of a drought or a starvation of the descending nature through the front of the body, in the front of the being. And so it becomes starved for that experience. And usually those texts clearly outline that they have their own stories, maybe their own heroes and characters, that the people who have not heeded the warning go insane. Great, incredible spiritual masters who kind of walking a fine line between their own personal experiences and complete insanity tip over into insanity. And the warnings are always given, it's entirely because they didn't do what we said, which was adhere to these specific rules. And the tongue connection with the roof of the mouth is one of those specific rules. But, you know, even though we presented a lot of warnings, it's good to just go off your own personal experience. It was always taught to me in Hoshin as part of meditation, so I've always just followed along, and then I find it in a lot of my other studies and practices. It's been there. In Qigong that I studied, it's there, and the teachers say, right, tongue to the roof of the mouth, and you're like, What I have found is when I really get into the experience, the microcosmic orbit especially, I actually just want my tongue. My tongue wants to sit there, and that you could argue that that's from 20 years of habit. But it really does feel like this incredible, almost like electrostatic pull. My tongue wants to be connected to the roof of the mouth. And I find that if I am in that state and just for fun, I play around with it and I keep my tongue down, I find I get a lot of neck tension, like a lot of tension in the trapezius and through the back of my shoulder blades. I personally haven't found that I've gone madly insane, but I myself haven't experienced the Kundalini awakening as far as I would ever. I can do incredible things with my energy, and I can drive and cause incredible experiences, but I do not consider that I have achieved that, the greater Kananli. So maybe it's just a matter of that I haven't had that experience, and therefore, you know, it hasn't blown my face off. I don't know, but I recommend just doing some experimenting for yourself during the breathwork and the breathing. Experiment with different positions of the tongue on the mouth and see what your experience is like. I find consistently a strange sensation of wanting the tongue to return to the roof of the mouth. And as I said before, this incredible muscular tension and kind of heating that goes on in my shoulders, my trapezius, and my neck if I don't do that. So for my own interest, I tend to just keep it there. And if that's a benefit to me for the next 10 years, then great. So looking at tonight, the flame hand activity, we're going to start back at the center of the palm, because these activities are really cool. We can do this to build up the sense of flame experience with both hands, and then apply them to the belly, and then use breath to engulf the hara and the center of the belly in warmth and movement. Or taking the hands and then applying them to the kidneys on a cold evening, and just feeling this incredible warmth just dwell and kind of liquefy, you know, through the skin. So I'm starting with my left hand. Don't know why, because I want to. And starting with the center of the palm, I'm going to take a couple of moments and breathe. You can have your eyes open or closed. And I just want to re-experience some nervous system sensation there in the center. It can be as intricate or as simple as you like. Okay, now I'm going to move pretty fast because I'm assuming that by now, at like session 21 or whatever it is we're up to, you're quite good at this. And if not, you need to go back and watch a lot of the previous videos to get up to speed. Now I'm going to take that experience, I'm going to allow it to continue there in the palm. I've got this kind of tingly, circling, rotating experience. And then I'm going to draw a line out to each of my fingers. I'm going to start with my pinky finger. So from that experience, just dwell it again, and then I'm going to draw along the tissue out towards the pinky finger. And I can map the sensation along the tissue. You know, sections of warmth, sections of cold, little bits of numbness, other sections of like a tingling sensation, all the way up towards the tip of that finger. And then I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to travel back to the palm in my mind. Take a few breaths, allow that experience to come to the forefront again in the palm. Okay, good. Now I've got that again, and now I'm going to draw again the same line up to the ring finger. till I can feel sensation up at the top of the finger. And then I'm going to bring my attention back to the palm. Stay at the palm with some breathing until you can bring to the forefront the tactile experience of the palm sensation again. Okay, now do the same thing, drawing up to the middle of the index finger. Until you find yourself having that experience of sensation up at the tip of the index finger. And now we're going to return to the palm. Again, however many breaths it needs for you to just watch the center of the palm until nervous system sensation and physical feedback becomes apparent. And then, once again, drawing that up, the finger, the pointer finger this time. Until you can find that experience in the point of the finger. And then back to the center of the palm. And now drawing that experience out to the thumb. While you're breathing, right up to the tip of the thumb. Okay, and now back in the palm. Now, just like we were practicing our peripheral vision before, we're going to have to practice observing sensation in multiple areas at the same time. So observing sensation in the center of the palm and in each of the fingertips at the same time. And hopefully by now you're starting to get some sensation of perhaps a throbbing sensation in the whole hand, or a sensation of warmth or cold. Sometimes it goes deadly cold on the back of my hand when I do this. It's very interesting. And as we just continue to breathe, continue observing, we want this broad peripheral experience. Sensation of the palm, sensation of the tips of each of the fingers. And slowly, what I want you to do, almost like when you're staring into infinite space and your peripheral vision suddenly sort of comes into play, you become aware of it without looking directly at it. I want you to do the same thing to all parts of the hand so that it fills in the gaps of the sensations of these fingers, you know, the flesh, the bone, the stems of the fingers, the palm itself down through the thumb, knuckle, and get until you get to the wrist, you know. And so the whole inside facing part of the hand is kind of within your grasp of observation. And hopefully you'll be able to begin feeling this whole connecting feeling through the fingers, as if they're like stems coming off from a central root. These interesting kind of columns of experience, of sensation. The more that you're able to observe your peripheral experience of the whole hand, the more you will start to take on the feeling of a large shape, like a large hand-like shape that is beyond the experience of the physical flesh. And we get into this idea of the flame of the hand, this kind of like huge outlying, you could draw a large aura of the hand, so to speak, and it would just look like a big flame of the hand, you know, like it's kind of got little bits. It doesn't look just like a giant version of the hand. It's not like you go to the football and you've got one of those big novelty hands, you know. It's just kind of like blurry, vague outline of your hand's intrinsic properties and shape. And now I want you to just leave that, just place your hand down and start on the right hand, starting at the center of the palm. Just going to start there. And whatever experience is going on with your other hand, just ignore it for now. Just totally jump to the right hand. And now starting with the palm on the right hand side, let's go through the same activity. So we start just observing, what can I feel? What kind of sensational feedback can I find there in the center of the palm? And as soon as you've got it, now begin drawing lines of that sensation out to the pinky finger of the right hand. And then once you get up and you've got experience, sensation, observation at the tip of the finger, come back to the center of the palm, observe the sensation again till it's quite in the forefront of your observation. And then now start drawing that line up towards the ring finger on the right hand. And I use drawing literally. I want this kind of smooth line of observation, all sensation of the tissue right up. As if your mental cognition is like a pencil and it travels slowly, either on the surface or through the bone or whatever. And when you get there, just observing, observing sensation in the finger tip, then come back to the palm again. Good, and then drawing from the palm up now the index finger, the central finger of the right hand. Until you can feel all that sensation, the tip of the finger on the right hand, the index finger. And then returning to the sensation at the palm. And then drawing up to the tip of the pointer finger on the right hand. And then back to the center of the palm, observing the sensation in the palm. And then drawing out along the thumb towards the tip of the thumb, the right hand. Okay, now back to the center of the palm. Now our job is to just dwell in the center of the palm until the experience, the sensation begins to become paramount. And then to use our experience of the peripheral perception to also, also experience the nervous system sensations and feedback of the points of each of the fingers. So then we're looking at a broad experience of the whole hand in those, at those points, the palm and the points of each of the fingers. And as soon as you're able to get that, kind of like click into that experience of the peripheral vision of the sensation of the hand, usually as soon as you're able to do that, it comes along with this large sensation of the whole hand and the structure, almost like all of these individualized points become one large mass. And so you get a much greater perspective in your experience of the hand. And so now we take both hands. And we're just going to observe these two peripheral experiences, the palm and all the points and all the interconnected sections on the left hand, and the palm and all the points and all the interconnected sections on the right hand. As we breathe. And then just leave them where they are. Resting, opening your eye, relaxing. Don't shake off the feeling, just let the hands be as they are. My left hand is freezing and my right hand is really warm. Always find the kind of research of self-experience to be a lot of fun. So we'll start wrapping up this section of tonight's video. Something that's really fun to do, something, if you enjoyed that, if you were able to get to the point where you could perceive the points of experience as a peripheral experience, almost like both the peripheral and the object of attention, and they merge into just a broad perspective of information. Hopefully you were also able to feel this elongated, we can call it an aura of the hand, this aura of the sensation, the physical feedback sensation of the hand itself. The hand takes on this bigger than, larger than life experience. And, you know, I've had fun watching some of my students be like, oh my God, my hands. And I can remember it too. It's like, oh my God, it really feels like your hands are on fire. What you can do is do that activity, really build up that sensation in the hands, and then play piano. Build up that sensation in the hands and then go gardening. Build up that sensation in the hands and then cook dinner. Build up that sensation in the hands, and I'll leave it up to your imagination about all the different things you could do with your hands after having built up that sensation. So I hope that tonight was fun, and I was keeping my eyes closed. That was good. I think we'll wrap it up there. So if you're staying on in the Zoom chat for tonight, I will finish recording and then we can continue chatting, having a social hangout afterwards. So stay on the line. For those of you at home, if you're watching this in the future, I hope that you're well. And that was the end of tonight's session. Stay tuned on Friday for the Hoshinden philosophy and theory session. So to everyone at home, good night, good luck, enjoy experimenting with that practice. For everyone in the Zoom session, if you'd like to stay on after the recording is done.